Top 6 Rundown. Top 6 Rundown.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 5th edition of Top 6 Rundown. It's already been 5 times.
Oh, man.
This season is flying by.
Flying.
All right, we'll get into it right away here. We're going to talk about the SEC, Arvin's favorite conference.
Oh, yeah. I'm RVG, by the way.
And I'm Charles in charge. All right, so Alabama is playing another ranked opponent. They're playing number 21 Ole Miss, who comes off a 44-23 beatdown of Texas 2 weeks ago. I think.
Wow, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and, I don't see how Alabama really has trouble in this game.
Yeah. I think this will be Alabama all the way.
All right, moving on to the real game, the game of the week. You heard it right here. Number 6, LSU at number 9, Georgia. That should be an interesting one. LSU's come out and played pretty hard and gone undefeated to start the season, but you got to question how tough the opponents really were. TCU's been proven to be a joke. You know, they played Auburn last week and spotted them 20 or given them 21. I don't know about them. You know,
It'll be definitely an interesting week. I mean, we have all these conference games now, and
I guess I still think Georgia's going to win because they're at home, but don't be surprised if LSU gives.
I'm gonna call LSU. I'm gonna say LSU.
All right, number 10 Texas A&M is playing at Arkansas. They'll have a little bit of a struggle, but they'll
Texas
beat
A&M.
Yeah. Now South Carolina stunningly only beat Vandy by 10. Which, if you watched me last week, I said it was gonna be an interesting game. But they're still, they're probably gonna beat Central Florida. Mm-hmm. All right, now number 20 Florida is playing
Kentucky. All right, so they're playing at Kentucky, and this year we haven't really seen Florida as good as they were. But definitely with this new quarterback, they're looking pretty good. So I think they'll probably still beat Kentucky.
All
it's
right.
a tradition.
We'll move on to the Big 12. Oklahoma State at West Virginia this week.
Oh, wow.
And this is the first real test of the season for the Pokies. I want to think they're going to win because their offense looks unstoppable as always, but you got to be able to play some defense, although West Virginia has no offense this year,
right.
So they'll probably win.
So Oklahoma State, definitely.
Oklahoma at number 22 Notre Dame. They're at 14th this week. That will be a hell of a football game, and that is my upset pick of the week. I think Notre Dame takes them down. I think Oklahoma's played well to this point, but again, they've not really been tested in, let's face it, South Bend, though it's lost some of its luster, is still a tough place to go play a road game. Baylor's at 19th. I still think they're underrated, and they have a bye week this week. After just dismantling somebody. Who's going to stop that Baylor offense?
No one.
All right, and Texas Tech is up to 24th. They won 33-7 last week, and they have a bye. They are a dark horse contender in the Big 12 right now. You give them 3 or 4 more weeks, and they could be at the top of those standings.
Oh, definitely.
And now we're going to move on to the Pac-12.
All right, to start it off, we have number 2 Oregon, who won against Tennessee 59-14. And they play California this weekend. And this is my upset because I almost always go with California. I don't care. I'm going for California.
Man, they're going to stop watching these videos.
Yeah. Next up is number 5 Stanford. They beat Arizona State.
Who came into last week ranked number 23.
Right. And I have to say that Arizona State did a pretty good job of coming back.
Because they were getting whipped early in the football
and
game.
they'll be at Washington State playing. And I think this will be an easy Stanford win.
I'm going to disagree. I think Washington State's a better team than people give them credit for. I mean, they've showed they can play with the SEC. They've taken down USC in LA. Watch out for
but USC
Washington State.
Well this year. But all right, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Next
UCLA is all the way up to 13 now.
Number
in the polls.
13 UCLA, and they have a bye week this week. And to top it all off, number 16 Washington versus Arizona. They beat Idaho State last week 56-0.
They should probably win, but don't be surprised if Arizona makes it difficult for them.
Yeah.
Now here's the big game in the Big Ten this week. Ohio State ranked 4th after a dismantling of Florida A&M.
Which they pretty much have
76 to
always
nothing.
shown, like, since the starting.
But it's been interesting, without Braxton Miller in the game, they almost seem better on offense.
They are
which is
better.
scary.
They are
That
way
is
better.
scary. And they play versus Wisconsin this week, who moves up to number 23 after tearing apart Purdue, which isn't really saying much. But, you know, I'm a Wisconsin fan, and I feel like they should be undefeated because they got screwed against Arizona State. But they're probably not going to pull off the upset this year. I think they'll
I'll
make
say
it
Ohio
tough.
State. Urban Meyer always has a way
They'll
to come
win.
in
I
there.
think Ohio State wins by like a touchdown.
Yeah, I would
but
say
they'll
by
still
touchdown,
win.
Yeah.
Northwestern this week comes off a really kind of weird Maine was in the contest game. And, you know, I want to be more confident in them. We'll see what happens. They have a bye before they host Ohio State, which that should be an interesting one. If Northwestern can keep the offense together, they might be able to pull off the upset.
But really, as we've heard, though, because they've also played California, they're just basically a better version of California. So we'll see how it works out.
And Michigan, the second week in a row, struggling with
what
a
do we
bad
say
opponent.
about Michigan?
24-21, they come out with the win. But come on, guys. Every year we want to say, this is the year Michigan's going to be back in it. And every year they
Take out Ohio
disappoint us.
State. No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Which, I mean, I would love for somebody, for them to finally get back into that rivalry. But I don't think it's going to happen this year if they keep turning the ball over like that.
Yeah.
All right, on to the ACC. Clemson had a tough one against NC State, like I said was going to happen. But they ended up hanging on. And those are the kind of games you have to win. People are going to look at it and say, oh, well, they only beat NC State 26-14.
Right.
But it was in Raleigh.
Yeah.
Which is a very tough place to play ball, and they knocked off Florida State the year before and Clemson the year before that. So I think that was a big win, and that really shows how tough this football
I
team
think
is.
Clemson all the way for that one.
And they're playing versus Wake Forest this week. That's another W. Florida State beat frickin' Bethune-Cookman 54-6. They play at Boston College this week.
Steve
this was
DiMaggio's team. But, you know,
If it was 4 years ago, this would be an interesting game because
Yeah.
Boston College had an offense then.
Right.
But
I
that's
would
an
think
easy
with
win.
Steve Dawsey they'd be pretty good, but apparently not. All right.
Miami came off a 77-7 beatdown,
Of Savannah State.
and they play at South Florida this week.
This will be an easy win, I think.
This will be another pretty easy win,
Cupcake.
but you know, South Florida used to be good. Now they're not.
Yeah.
So that's all you need to know about that.
Right.
And the AAC finishing up. Louisville's on bye this week after a 72-0 win. Man.
Florida International.
And we're sorry, guys. Last week was just uninteresting football. Heisman Watch. Teddy Bridgewater, you know, he's kind of out there in front. Braxton Miller's got a problem.
I think he's going to drop.
Because he's not even the starter now, you know. And then
Hand over to Guyton. Woo! No, that's
and then Taj Boyd, I think, is in the
Taj Boyd.
Mansell. They're probably not going to give it to him twice. The only way I saw him getting it twice is if they went undefeated this year. And
that's just not happening.
AJ McCarron still has a chance. I don't think
AJ
he's.
McCarron,
Yeah,
he was
and
actually one.
And after that, it's all kind of like there's maybe some dark horses out there. And our wild card game of the week this week is SMU at TCU, and I'll tell you why. Both teams are 1-2, and both teams are from that
Texas.
central part of Texas there, and both teams would really love to get back in the groove.
To prove who is the most elite.
Well, I mean, they're not. Neither one of them is the most elite in Texas, but
we just for the case of this, we'll say.
But this should be an interesting one. It's a rivalry game, and it should go down to the wire, I think, because both teams really are not as great as they used to be. So thank you for watching our videos, and
please comment, subscribe, do everything that you can do, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace out.